I cannot tell you guys how much I love that episode. Hey guys, welcome to my review of Obi-Wan Episode 6. These episodes don't have a title, so it's just Part 6, and I just finished watching the episode maybe, 20 minutes ago, and I am so happy. I besides production value and a little bit of the cinematography, I love almost everything about this episode, from the story and just certain beats that happened and the way certain things are executed. I'm so happy. I am so happy. Let's discuss the actual episode. So this episode is really split into two parts. There's the actual Obi-Wan story with what he's doing with Vader, and then there's the Reva story where she confronts Luke. So I'm gonna cover the Reva part of the episode, and then I'll talk about the Obi-Wan and Vader part of the episode. So the episode begins, and Reva's just straight up already on Tatooine, which is fine. And I like how you could tell she was clearly weakened by the events of the 5th episode. I still think that her being alive is really dumb. Vader would definitely ensure that she was dead. But besides that, just, she's back. She's clearly weakened. I think her hair was a little bit messed up. So I liked how she wasn't just fine, like the Grand Inquisitor seemed to be. Like, she was clearly weakened by what happened in the previous episode. Another thing I kind of liked about this episode was the community of Tatooine in a way, because this one girl asks for Owen, or this one girl, Reva asks for Owen, and this one guy overhears and then tells Owen, oh, someone is looking for you. So I kind of liked how Owen kind of has a bit of a good reputation in the Tatooine community, where there's other people there that are kind of looking out for Owen and Luke. I assume these people know who Luke is. We always assume that people on Tatooine are just really bad people, but seeing someone just randomly help Obi-Wan was something I really liked and didn't know I needed in Star Wars. So then Owen comes back and he tells Beru that, this woman is coming for Luke, and they're like, we knew this day might come. So they take out their guns, and I don't know, I just, when I envisioned Reva confronting Luke and Owen and Beru after last week's episode, I kind of pictured them to just be like weak, kind of just like helpless. Like Reva walks in, holds a lightsaber up to them, and they're just like, oh no. But I liked how they showed some fight, Beru's like, bitch please, I'm gonna stand up and defend my home, and Owen wanted to run. So I don't know, I really appreciated how they fought for the home. They fought to protect Luke and make sure that even though we all knew that Reva would easily get past them, and they probably had a good idea of that too, they're still gonna stand by their home and defend Luke and their home, which I really like. The vibe I got from this whole part of the episode was that Owen and Beru are simply good parents. They're good parents. We only really see them parent in A New Hope, and Owen doesn't let Luke leave Tatooine, so we kind of assume we don't really assume they're bad parents, but we don't like them there. But we never really got a good understanding, were Owen and Beru good parents to Luke, and just from this one episode, I get the feeling they are. I was really surprised about how much I enjoyed seeing Owen and Beru in this episode, and how much it made me appreciate them more. And kind of in a way, I wish they got more love in the rest of the canon. I mean, they raised Luke, but after A New Hope, they get no love. So, kind of wish going forward that Owen and Beru get more love, because they deserve it. So Reva attacks, and I already said I loved how Owen and Beru defended themselves. But again, you can also still tell that Reva is clearly weakened. A healthy Reva would easily just kill Owen and Beru, but, she was struggling a little bit. Owen had the pipe, and then Reva slashed it, and then Luke escapes. And one thing I was very curious about, and I paid attention to this throughout the whole episode, would Luke ever see a lightsaber? Would he ever see one? And he didn't. Because when they opened the door to Luke's bedroom, Beru sees the lightsaber, and Reva knocks her out. But Luke is already at the top of like the little ladder. So right as Reva walks in with the lightsaber, Luke is at the top of the ladder and leaves. So he doesn't see a lightsaber. And then after that, he doesn't see a lightsaber at all for the rest of the episode, because he's running away from Reva the whole time. Reva's like chasing him in the woods, not the woods, some weird cave or dune area. You get what I'm saying. And then she sees Luke, kind of uses the Force to trip him. So, but the Force was used in a way to where Luke isn't gonna wonder, oh, how the hell did I just trip? He could have just thought, oh, I tripped. Maybe it would have felt a little weird in the moment, but when you pass out, you kind of forget, that your last seconds before passing out. So there was no overt usage of the Force. And when Reva was chasing Luke into the desert forest, I don't know what else to call it, she didn't have her lightsaber on, so Luke's not seeing some woman with a red lightsaber chase him. He just sees some woman chasing him. And then he gets knocked out, and when he's on the ground, that's when Reva ignites the lightsaber again and decides not to kill him. So that's the whole kind of part of Reva's arc in this episode. I'll get into her final moments in a sec. So now I'm going to talk about the entire actual Obi-Wan part of the episode. So the episode begins and Obi-Wan and the crew are getting chased by Vader and the Empire. The Star Destroyer looked great. Like, the Star Destroyer looked fantastic. I'm mildly frustrated though that they didn't send TIE fighters. It got a little bit of Last Jedi vibes where I was like, okay, the Empire could really easily take out this one transport if they really wanted to. I don't get why they wouldn't send TIE fighters. I get production value. That's really my only big complaint about the episode. Just why wouldn't they send TIE fighters to go take out the transport? Obi-Wan tells everyone that he needs to leave, and Leia's mad, like, no, you can't do this. You said you would stay with me, which makes sense. But, this is a typical Jedi thing to do. So Obi-Wan was like, yeah, I need to do this. They're after me, not you. If I go, you guys will be safe. So that's just typical, Jedi doing the right thing. Nothing special there. It wasn't a huge, powerful moment, but it was enough. This is what Obi-Wan had to do. It made sense given the story. And Leia was upset. And then the rest of the people, Roken, eventually got Leia back to Alderaan. So all of that worked. I continue to love how Vader is in this series, because we see him kind of a lot more emotional in this series than we do in the original trilogy. I loved when the Grand Inquisitor is like, we can't focus on Kenobi, we need to focus on getting the rebels or whatever they are. And Vader's like, no, Kenobi's all I care about. Which, again, is the emotional decision, which is something that Anakin would do. And the Grand Inquisitor's like, okay, whatever, I'm not going to fight Vader on this. But I just love that. I loved how it is clear Vader is not making the right decision, but he doesn't care. He's letting his emotions get over him, which is the mix of Anakin and Vader that I wanted in this series. And throughout the whole series, we got that, and I was so happy to see that. So Obi-Wan lands on the planet, and if you notice, it kind of reminds me, the whole scenery, it kind of reminded me of the final battle in Avatar: The Last Airbender, where you just have these giant spires of rock. So, I don't know, I kind of appreciated that. But anyways, Obi-Wan lands, Vader lands, and you can tell immediately that Obi-Wan's just ready. When Vader lands, he's standing there, his chest is up, he has his lightsaber in his hand, as opposed to before in Chapter 3, he was like hunched over, he was scared shitless seeing Vader, and then he just ran away a bunch of times. Like, here, he was ready, you can tell. So then they start fighting, and the fighting was serviceable. It wasn't something amazing. Like, I'm not gonna be like, wow, this cinematography is amazing. But the cinematography was better here than it was in at least the last episode. There wasn't really much shaky cam. We had some wide angles as to what was going on. Again, I just love seeing lightsabers in the dark. So when people are when there's a lightsaber fight at night, I love it, because the glow of the lightsabers against the characters, that's something I really like. So the first half of the fight was good enough for me. They're fighting, it looks good. Obi-Wan's clearly better than what he was before. He's tuned back in the Force. He was able to tune into his skills he's had his whole life. So some people were going to say, oh, Vader should have still easily beaten Obi-Wan, but I don't know. Like, no, I disagree. Obi-Wan, yeah, he might not have had training for a long time, but this is something he's been doing his whole life, so he kind of just tuned back into it. So Obi-Wan gets buried by a bunch of rocks, and I like that moment where Vader's just chucking rocks. That's something I like in lightsaber fights, when the people fighting use stuff other than the lightsabers and the Force. I think it was so poorly done in Attack of the Clones when Dooku and Yoda are throwing stuff at each other. But here, I don't know, I felt the rage from Vader when he was throwing rocks at Obi-Wan and then he buried him. I was so nervous when Vader was looking down at Obi-Wan. He was going to say, I have the high ground now. Thank God he didn't say that, but I was worried there. Another minor complaint, Vader, I guess, assumes Obi-Wan is dead after burying him all that time. And I don't know, just in my mind, Vader would 100% make sure that the person he's trying to kill is dead. But anyway, so Obi-Wan is under all the rocks, and he is having all these flashbacks to kind of motivate him. That was a little cheesy. He's listening to dialogue from the prequels. That was a little cheesy. I didn't hate it, but I was like, okay, he's having flashbacks to motivate himself. and then he stands up and he's fine again. So, I mean, it was fine. So after Obi-Wan comes out from under the rocks, that's when he starts to kick Vader's ass. Vader's just completely outmatched her. Obi-Wan's, throwing rocks at him. I liked when Obi-Wan lifted all the rocks and just started chucking all of them at once. That was pretty cool. Was it a little bit OP? I guess. I don't care. I don't get too worked up if certain characters are not powerful enough or are too powerful. So I liked seeing Obi-Wan, just take Vader to town. And then he was able to cut him a few times and then get the mask, similar to how he did it, or how Ahsoka did it in Rebels. It was done a little differently in terms of the emotional context. I felt like Vader was a bit more conflicted, and we got a little bit more Anakin in Rebels than we did here, but I still liked seeing Vader's or Anakin's face again. I might have wanted a bit more dialogue or a bit more of a conversation between the two, but what we got I absolutely loved. Obi-Wan sees Anakin. He sees Anakin's face, and he's like, Anakin. And then, you get the mixture of the voices of Anakin and Vader. Kind of like how we did with Matt Lanter and James Earl Jones in Rebels. Here we got a mix of Hayden Christensen and James Earl Jones, or whatever that voice was. And I love that. It was so cool. It was mostly Anakin's voice as opposed to Vader's, but you can tell that was still Vader. And then the part of the episode that just made it worth it for me was when Obi-Wan was apologizing to Anakin, Vader. He's like, I'm sorry, Anakin. I'm sorry, Anakin. That's what I wanted. That is the emotional climax of the show. Obi-Wan apologizing to Anakin and kind of forgiving himself in a way. And then Vader's like, you didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. I did, just like how I will kill you. And Obi-Wan's like, if that's so, goodbye, Darth. Which kind of ties into the line, from A New Hope, where he's like, only the master of evil doth. So like in his mind, Anakin is dead. He just sees Darth Vader. So I liked how he called him Darth. That was a neat tie to the original trilogy. So the fight is over. Overall, I would say I really liked the fight. There could have been a bit more desired in terms of, I guess, the cinematography and the location of the fight. But in terms of the emotional context and what was said between the characters and the actual storytelling beats of the fight, I loved it. So overall, I thoroughly enjoyed the fight. Didn't love it, but I really liked it. So now going back to the Reva story, Obi-Wan returns to Tatooine just in time. Again, this is another one of those things where people can travel across space in like minutes. But anyways, Obi-Wan shows up on Tatooine, and Reva walks up, brings Luke back alive, puts him down, and he's still passed out. And she's just like, I can't do this, I can't do this. And Obi-Wan's talking to her. And this is also kind of the resolution of Obi-Wan's arc, where if you saw Obi-Wan in the beginning of the series, he might have killed Reva. He wouldn't have been as hopeful or wouldn't have been as helpful to Reva and kind of inspire her to be better. Reva's upset at first. She's like, am I just like him? Am I just like Vader? Because, she's been doing evil for quite some time. And Obi-Wan's like, no, you're not. You have the chance to be free now. Go do whatever. And I wonder if this will be a controversial, decision in the story that Obi-Wan let Reva live. But it just wouldn't be in Obi-Wan's character to kill someone, especially after she spared Luke. So to me, that's fine. Reva's alive. She's going off somewhere. She could be alive in the original trilogy. She could be dead. We don't know. She's not going back to the Empire, that's for sure. So I don't know. I don't know what to see. If we'll see more of her, we probably will at some point. Maybe in Andor we'll see her, actually. I don't know. Overall, Reva's story, it wasn't bad. I didn't hate it. I just wish it had more to do with Obi-Wan's development and arc. If you take out Reva from this story, Obi-Wan can still pretty much go on the same character arc. Yeah, Reva's the one who initiated the story in terms of Leia getting captured and all that, but in terms of Obi-Wan's character arc, Reva doesn't do much. So in that way, I wish Reva had a little bit more prominence in the story. But again, at the end of the day, I don't hate Reva, but I could have gone without her, if that makes sense. So the episode ends on 4 mini scenes, if you will. The first one is with Vader talking to the Emperor. That was cool seeing the Emperor. The Emperor looked really good. I got original trilogy vibes from him. Palpatine's like, I sense you still have conflicted feelings about your master. And Vader's like, no, I am loyal to you. And you can tell Vader's pissed. He is pissed that he lost to Obi-Wan. And that's going to keep him angry for a while. It makes sense that Obi-Wan would tell Luke that Anakin is dead and that he's more machine now than man. He saw Vader, commit to being evil. So in Obi-Wan's eyes, Anakin Skywalker is dead. And Vader said he killed Anakin Skywalker, so from a certain point of view, he told Luke the truth. So the scene after Vader talks to the Emperor, we see Leia back on Alderaan, and she has her new gloves. She has the holster. She's kind of dressed like Luke from A New Hope. And then Obi-Wan comes back to Alderaan, gives one final goodbye to Leia. And the one thing I loved about this encounter was that Obi-Wan told Leia, he's like, no one can know about me. You need to keep this a secret. Which now just, makes sense now why Leia didn't really say anything in New Hope. She's like, oh, I can't really say much about Obi-Wan. So she's kind of keeping that a secret to herself. And I don't know, I really like that. And then the whole conversation between the two was awesome, Obi-Wan's like, I don't remember specifically what traits he mentions, but he's like, this, and this are what you get from your mother, and passion, and this, and that are what you get from your father. So that was a neat moment. I like the goodbye. Overall, Leia was done really well in this series, and I'm really glad that she was able to be in this series. Obi-Wan goes back to Tatooine and says kind of goodbye to Owen, where he's like, and you can tell he's a lot more optimistic in a way. He's a lot more joyful. He goes back to Owen and he's like, you and Beru are the only protection that Luke really needs right now. And then Obi-Wan gets to meet Luke for what we assume is the first time. And it's not like canon breaking. It's never said that Luke never met Obi-Wan. They just didn't have an established relationship by A New Hope. So the fact that they just meet is fine. They're not gonna have an in-depth conversation. Obi-Wan just gets to say hi. And of course, he says hello there. Stuff like that would usually get me mad, but I don't know, the series earned it to me. Obi-Wan went on this arc. He's more positive. He's a bit more upbeat. He's been on this character arc. He's a much more happier person. So him saying hello there, I smiled. Sue me, I fell for the meme. I fell for hello there. I was fine with it. And then the episode ends with Qui-Gon coming back. It was very brief. And I think you could tell Qui-Gon's beard looked pretty fake, I believe. But overall, it was neat. I'm not a Phantom Menace fan, but I always appreciated Qui-Gon in terms of the story of Star Wars, not just that movie. So I liked seeing him. I would have liked a little bit more. I wonder if they're teasing a season 2. I know I made that one video where I was completely against a season 2 of Obi-Wan. But this finale made me open up to the idea a bit more. I think I'd still prefer that to not happen, but seeing Obi-Wan learn more from Qui-Gon, I really liked. And I don't know, I was happy seeing Qui-Gon. I was happy. It wasn't too fan servicey. He just showed up. He's like, hey, we have more to learn. And the episode ended. So I was happy with that. Overall, again, I just love this episode. I have a few minor complaints here and there. I wish the cinematography and the just overall production value of the show was a bit higher. But in terms of the story of this final episode, I loved it. It's easily my favorite of this entire series. One of my favorite in terms of all Disney Plus Star Wars live action episodes. And after the absolute shitter that was the finale of the Book of Boba Fett, I'm just so happy this episode ended in the way that it did. Tomorrow I will probably have a more in-depth video essay on why I loved this episode so much. I'm so happy. I'm really happy with this episode and the way the series turned out. There's a lot about the series that I wish could have been better, but the finale was great, and I loved it. Probably a 10 out of 10, maybe 9.5 out of 10. Let me know what you guys think down below, and what were your thoughts on this overall series. Thank you everyone so much for watching another one of my videos. Don't forget to hit the Claude Squad, and I will see you guys next time.